They too are arriving from Andrews Air Force Base. President Johnson and Mrs. Johnson have entered the White House. This is the first time they will have entered the executive mansion as President and First Lady of the United States. There are small crowds outside the White House, extra police details have been put on in case there should be many people turning out to see the new president arriving here. Cars are, however, blocking Pennsylvania Avenue. They're going very, very slowly. They're attempting to move cars as rapidly as possible. The meeting, presumably, will get underway immediately. This is the meeting with President Johnson and Secretary of Defense McNamara and McGeorge Bundy. This is Robert Gorelski, NBC News, reporting from the White House.
Darkness has settled on the eastern part of the United States. John F. Kennedy, who departed the White House Thursday morning as President of the United States, has returned the victim of an assassin in Dallas, Texas. The man suspected of having committed this offense is under arrest. His name is Lee Oswald. He is now being investigated and interrogated by federal and state authorities in Texas. The new President of the United States, Lyndon Baines Johnson, has arrived with the First Lady at the White House. He will spend the night there. All of NBC's programs for the remainder of this evening and until further notice have been canceled in order that we might keep you completely and fully and immediately abreast of all the developments in this tragedy. Expressions of regret have been heard from around the world. They will not suffice. The President of the United States is dead. We have a new president. And NBC's Chet Huntley and David Brinkley have prepared a special 90-minute program which we will bring you immediately following this break for station identification.
The shots that rang out in Dallas on November 22nd, 1963 really were shots heard around the world. By this time on that day, most Americans home from work and school were transfixed in front of their television sets. I myself, having been told that I would be going to Dallas, went instead to Washington on a plane NBC had chartered. Dozens of us went from New York to remain through the funeral. Television, which had played so large a part in the career of JFK, turned this national tragedy into a personal experience that all could share. It created a unifying bond that all could feel. It gave a new dimension to grief. Americans sat in collective mourning. In a sense, the historic nature of this epic television ordeal made the viewers more than just spectators. Each was somehow a participant in the drama. It was an unprecedented spectacle as together Americans shared the bitterness, the anger, the anguish, shame, and confusion. John F. Kennedy was dead. He was now the stuff of legend, and all that he could do for his country was somehow suspended in time between history and myth. Nothing did more to nourish the myth than the continuing television coverage that weekend. What follows is the way America reacted on the night John Kennedy died, as broadcast by NBC News. And it is, by the way, at times like this, that a news organization finds out how good it is, whether it can do the hard jobs, the grim ones. For the next hour and a half, we're featuring select portions of NBC's coverage from the remainder of that mind-numbing day 25 years ago. The evening's coverage began with the Huntley Brinkley report.
None of us will ever forget where he was and how he felt when the news was announced. In New York City, for a handful of people, the place was the sidewalk beside the open door of NBC News reporter Gabe Pressman's automobile, listening to the loudspeaker, the car radio. They had known for some minutes that the president was gravely wounded. Then came the instant when the worst was confirmed.
A flash from Dallas. Two priests who were with President Kennedy say he is dead of bullet wounds. This is the latest information we have from Dallas. We are, of course, standing by to give you all available information as it comes to us. I will repeat with the greatest regret this flash. Two priests who were with President Kennedy say he has died of bullet wounds.
Find it hard to believe.
Two sources.
Please go ahead. It's hard to believe it. Hard to believe it's right.
President died. Approximately 25 minutes.
Others, there was a stunned silence and a groping to come to terms with a fact that was almost beyond belief. The face and voice of a young girl summed it up.
Bleeding and unconscious. The Parkland Memorial Hospital in Dallas. To the Parkland Memorial Hospital in Dallas.
What's your feeling right now?
I really couldn't say. Really, right now I just don't know what to do. I don't even know where to go, what to say. There's nothing for me to say.
The assassination took place in Dallas as President Kennedy rode in a cavalcade toward the Trade Mart where he was to have luncheon and make a speech. This is what happened, beginning shortly before the shots were fired. The voice is that of Charles Murphy of station WBAP, Fort Worth.
This was a scene near the Stemmons Expressway. This is in front of City Hall in downtown Dallas, a mile east of the shooting scene. Heavy crowds lined the downtown streets to view the presidential party. As in all of the Texas stops, there were many teenagers attracted there by the First Lady and the President. This is Main Street in Dallas. Is this moving west? This is moving west toward the fatal moment. The motorcade is traveling at about 20 to 25 miles an hour, slowly westward down Main Street in the heart of Dallas. The time, about 12:20. During the noon hour, heavy crowds from downtown offices lining the route. That looks like the school depository building on the right. I'm not sure. This is the scene of confusion. Something has happened here. The cameraman running toward the scene to the presidential car ahead of him. We caught just a blurred glance of the old school depository building from which the sniper fired the shot. This is the reaction from the crowd. All is confusion at the scene. Here a woman shelters herself, now racing toward the hospital. On Stemmons Freeway, past the trademark to the right, where the president was to have spoken, where he was to have criticized the fanatical right. There, a picture. That is Parkland Hospital, 1.5 miles to 2 miles from the shooting scene. Parkland Hospital, where the president died in Dallas. By the time these films were shot, of course, the presidential car was already at the hospital. This is Major General Clifton, the military aide of the president, Press Secretary